tiny town of Pine Hollow, tucked deep within an expansive forest, wore an atmosphere of stillness, as though it held its breath in anticipation. It was a place that seemed to exist outside time, wrapped in mist and secrets whispered through gnarled branches. The few residents spoke of strange occurrences, abrupt disappearances, and the persistent echoes of the past. The town had gained unwelcome notoriety from the unexplained interruption of its local TV station's emergency broadcast. Just as the anchor warned of an impending storm, a dark figure emerged behind him on screen. Frozen in terror, viewers watched as the screen flickered before cutting to static, filling the air with an oppressive hum. Driven by both curiosity and skepticism, a small team of paranormal investigators arrived in Pine Hollow. They came armed with cameras, recording devices, and a nervous energy that crackled like electricity. Their goal, to capture the truth behind the town's sinister legend, and, perhaps inadvertently, confront something that lurked far beyond human comprehension. The team consisted of 3 members: Sarah, the fearless leader and skeptic at heart; Mark, the technology expert with a penchant for finding patterns within chaos; and Lily, a sensitive who often felt drawn to energies unseen and unheard by others. Together, they tread cautiously yet resolutely through alleys and deserted streets. Their initial focus was the scene of the mystery, the old, shuttered TV station nestled at the edge of town. Vines crept over its neglected exterior, and its windows, like eyes closed against the world, reflected nothing but eerie night. Within its decaying walls, the trio set up their first night of investigation. The shifting shadows seemed more than natural as they unpacked their equipment, the air crackling with tension. Each creak of the floorboards beneath their feet was a whisper from a past that refused to remain silent. As midnight drew close, the atmosphere within the TV station thickened, charged with a breathless expectancy. Shadows danced with unnatural unease, and the team's equipment flickered with disobedient static, as if mocking their attempt to capture truth. The trio huddled around a portable screen, watching a playback of the last moments of the final broadcast. The figure that appeared behind the anchor was ephemeral, a silhouette defined by the very absence of light. It seemed to pulse with intention, the screen warping around it as if reality itself balked at its presence. Suddenly, the air chilled, their breath fogging in unison. Mark's state-of-the-art devices crackled and hissed, yielding only distorted fragments of sound, a cacophony of terror, ridden with a malevolent undercurrent. Panic settled like an unwelcome guest among the 3 as they exchanged uncertain glances. The entity's presence unmistakably felt, but frustratingly out of reach. The longer they stayed in the station, the more the spectral energy permeated their flesh, warping their perceptions and twisting reality. Mark, usually rational and composed, began to experience visual distortions. Shapes took on unnatural symmetry, their edges blurring into soft, humming lines. Sarah fixated on a corner, long devoid of light. It was as if some unseen scenario played out in her mind alone, whispers unfolding into tangible threads that threatened to unravel her grasp on reality. She struggled to maintain the anchor of logic amidst the churning tides of confusion. Meanwhile, Lily felt an inexplicable connection to the entity she was starting to view as sentient, a force straddling beyond the tangible. She sensed its curiosity, a mirrored reflection of their own mingling with an ageless hunger that transcended their limited understanding. Suspense thickened around them, suffocating like invisible smoke. Determined to regain control, Sarah instructed Mark to recalibrate the equipment, hoping for clarity amidst the chaos. The devices responded with reluctant obedience, emitting fluctuating signals that threaded uncanny symphonies throughout the room. However, each adjustment Mark made only intensified the anomaly, as if the technology itself was conspiring with the unknown to mock them further. The electromagnetic fields warped further from recognizable science, dispatching anxiety like smoke, heavy and suffocating. Lily's mind was awash in overlapping sensations, the entity's intentions coiling through her consciousness like serpents whispering forgotten truths. Her hand reached unconsciously towards the spot where the figure appeared in the recording. The fabric of space itself seemed to ripple under her touch. Horror and fascination wrestled for her attention, each claiming dominance over the other. The ice-bound wind howled outside, merging with whispers that wove themselves into the investigator's consciousness, enticing them into deeper investigation. Sarah's skeptical nature battled with instinct, caution urging her to hold back, even as curiosity gnawed at her resolve. Calling a temporary halt, she suggested they revisit the station during daylight, reasoning that by then the eerie presence might diminish. But a corner of her mind, cloaked in doubt, whispered that the phenomenon adhered neither to time nor reason. Lily's resolve cracked, her breath shallow and rapid, as she convinced Sarah to stay just a little longer. She believed some ethereal alignment neared completion, a tenuous dance of forces, yet unseen, tempting them with revelations bound only in night's embrace. Night surrendered itself to the creeping tendrils of dawn, despite the team's last-minute decision to continue. The sun remained obscured, its light barely trickling through the station's dusty windows. A disquieting imitation of morning met the team as they clung to the last shreds of investigation and sanity. Mark furrowed his brow at their readings, his scientific mind struggling with the absurd anomalies their instruments reported. Energy levels rose and fell with alien logic, controls manifesting in incomprehensible patterns that tugged insidiously at the edges of their understanding. As the minutes ticked on, their weariness expended. They were caught unaware when a voice, not their own, and creeping from the shadows, began narrating narrating the events they had just experienced. The voice was a distorted echo, delivering a play-by-play of their ordeal with chilling accuracy, making the hairs on their necks stand rigid with fear. The mimicry from the shadows was unrelenting, the entity's narration a dark mirror, reflecting their actions, thoughts, and intentions warped by the supernatural. It slipped between languages, muddled yet precise, leaving Mark to frantically toggle through audio channels, searching against hopeless odds for a rational explanation. Their attempts to communicate with the entity met only with dreadful laughter, like a lonely echo bouncing through the blackest recesses of an abyss. Its presence mutating into something akin to an omnipresent understanding, a malevolent companion riding their thoughts, threading dread into each exchanged glance. Fear became a physical entity, weighing heavily on their chests as they realized that this encounter was no longer one of mere observation and recording. The entity, a watcher from the depths, was calling them into a deeper realm of understanding, a place where the veil between worlds thinned to nothingness. Time dissolved into a seamless dreamscape of jagged memories and distorted affirmations. Each investigator wrestled with the encroaching void gnawing on their sanity, inching toward acceptance of reality's fluidity. Sarah bore witness to the desolate realization of everything she had once dismissed, struggling against the fragmentation of her very essence. The boundaries of thought and perception dissolved around her, giving way to kaleidoscopic visions sent forth by an unseen maestro. Lily embraced the otherworldly confluence with hesitant awe, her touch probing the thinly concealed dimensional rift. Sparks of recognition igniting within her like the smoldering embers of forgotten dreams. Mark, besieged by numerical insanity, saw visions of equations swallowed by nonsensical infinity, the fabric of certainty unraveling before wide-eyed focus. In a moment of clarity transcendence, the intertwining visions coalesced into a crescendo of comprehension, a single truth that slewed away the veneer of understanding. What lay behind that final broadcast became all too apparent, a plea from an enigmatic obscurity pleading for release. Achingly beautiful, yet horrifying, the entity's entrapped consciousness resonated with life force unfathomable. In its depths lay desires articulated through fractured time, ambitions and narratives that yearned not for their own continuation, but to mingle with and reshape tangible reality. Guided by primal instinct, as if divinely ordained, Lily stepped forward without hesitation. Her hand, bold where fear had tethered others, reached into the heart of the anomaly. The culmination bespeaks an unholy alliance between the natural and supernatural, unfolding before their disbelieving eyes in solemnity and awe, cold and inscrutable.